Bowers&Wilkins is back with a new flagship pair of wireless and noise-cancelling headphones. Folks, the newest PX8 S2 are here. Let's try this out and then compare this with the latest releases of Sony and Sennheiser. Let's go! Welcome back everyone, I'm Sando and today we're going to dive into the latest flagship wireless and noise-cancelling headphones of Bowers&Wilkins. According to their creators, the PX8 S2 isn't just a small improvement versus the PX8, but a major one in every possible way. The original PX8 was released in September 2022, so exactly 3 years ago. And the engineers had plenty of time to refine everything inside and out. Although looking quite similar with the third generation, their caps are now slimmer and their weight went down by 10 grams. And well, 10 grams doesn't seem like a lot, right? But consider that we have lots of new technology inside. In theory, their weight should go up, but it's the other way around. So these are now lighter weight and slimmer looking, and overall I'd say that they are looking more striking and modern at the same time. Build quality wise, seriously now, I do not think you can do much better than this, and once you put them near a pair of Sennheiser or Sony, you start realizing how much more premium these are looking. Everything is made out of metal and leather, and that's pretty much it. We don't have plastic parts. This is metal, this is metal, this is leather, 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 and also leather. So they are looking much more premium compared to anything that Sennheiser or Sony does in terms of wireless headphones. Even their ear caps are covered with soft leather, which makes them less slippery compared to their competition. Comfort-wise, the headband is softer and cushier compared to the very first generation PX8. And since the ear caps can tilt and swivel, I find simply less pressure applied on top of my head and around my ears, so I can wear this for a few extra hours. And compared with the Momentum 4 and Sony XM6, these are just comfier in long listening sessions. So they are winning massively in terms of looks and comfort as well. After a 3-hour listening marathon, I feel just a mild discomfort on top of my head, but zero around my ears thanks to their memory foam earpads covered with soft leather, and I'd say that these are getting top points in terms of comfort, especially if you have a bigger melon like mine. On the inside, as far as technology goes, these are much more interesting to me. We have again those massive 40mm carbon cone drivers that have been further optimized for a lower total harmonic distortion and also for a higher resolution. As far as codec support goes, this is pretty much the most interesting headphone for me, much more interesting compared to the Momentum or XM6 by Sony, because we have aptX adaptive and aptX lossless, which is so far the best Bluetooth codec available right now. They also have the regular aptX and CBC and AAC if you are using Apple devices. They will also get the LC3 and Auracast via a firmware update later this year. Now you might wonder what's the catch with this aptX lossless and how it compares with Sony's LDAC that has been ruling supreme for a while now. The first and the most important parts actually about wireless transmission is one, the bitrate, and two, the latency. So let's talk about that. The LDAC can go up to 990 kilobytes per second, while aptX lossless can do 1200 kilobytes per second. The latency of the LDAC is around 100 and 150 milliseconds, while the latency on aptX lossless is somewhere in between 50 and 80 milliseconds. So if you want to have zero lip sync issues while watching videos or maybe some movies or YouTube videos or playing games, then aptX lossless is a much better option because it has a lower latency and This is so far the best Bluetooth codec available on the market right now. The only problem with aptX lossless is that it was introduced just 1 year ago. It's not so widely spread, so all of the newest Android devices started to introduce this new codec. If you see Snapdragon sound, then most likely those devices will have aptX lossless support. My smartphone right now does not have, but my next smartphone will surely have aptX lossless. I'll make sure to have that because this is simply the best Bluetooth codec available. The noise cancelling technology was also substantially improved on the PX8 S2, and from 6 microphones we now have 8 microphones on the S2. The mics were also repositioned for better optimization, and I must say that they sound less muffled and more natural with active noise cancellation enabled. The added microphones together with a brand new voice processing technology also improved the call quality even in noisy environments. We still have up to 30 hours of music playback with active noise cancellation enabled, and while their competitors offer a similar or a slightly better battery life, putting a bigger one will make them heavier and less comfortable long term, so Bowers&Wilkins didn't want to sacrifice their looks and their amazing comfort level for a slightly nicer battery life, and I think I can accept that compromise. We also have full support for spatial audio that was first introduced with their PX7 S3 using a proprietary decoding and audio processing for better results. We also get a Bowers&Wilkins music app available for both Android and iOS devices. From there you can update the software to a newer version, you can enable noise cancellation, pass-through mode, or disable everything for the most natural sound. We have a 5-band equalizer that lets you adjust the bass region, lower and upper mid-range, as well as lower and upper treble, but personally I like them without any EQ applied. There's an audio standby setting as well, allowing you to adjust the sensitivity of the Wear sensor, and you can even select the streaming quality over mobile data or Wi-Fi. I recommend choosing the highest quality in both cases. What's interesting is that you can link one or more streaming services to this app, like Tidal, Deezer, TuneIn, SoundCloud, and you can listen to music directly from this app. In my case, Tidal worked just fine. My playlists were there, as well as my favorite albums and tracks. However, I still tend to use the native Tidal app, mostly due to music recommendations and to its broader feature set. Okay everyone, this is all you need to know about them, so let's talk about their sound. Playing with high-end headphones for a while now and having a pretty impressive desktop headphone setup, I'm not that easily impressed when it comes to wireless headphones, even if a few of them had pretty impressive advancements and very good codec support. And after owning, I believe, most, if not all, flagship Bose, Sennheiser, Sony's, even Bowers&Wilkins headphones, I realized that all of those, or most of them, are not so impressive when trying to unearth as much information from the tunes that I'm listening. So I always found them kind of mid-fi sounding, not so clean, not so resolving, not so tight sounding. That is the main reason why I'm traveling most of the time with a high-end digital audio player together with a pair of high-end IMs or maybe wired headphones, but it's always wired headphones and not wireless. When I've heard the PX8 a few years ago, I realized that Bowers&Wilkins are doing it differently compared to Sony and Sennheiser, because I could hear a little bit more information coming forward. But with the PX8 S2, that effect is even stronger. So right now I can say without any hesitation that if you care about detail retrieval, how much information they can bring to the surface, then these are playing a forever a long game, and I believe these are considerably clearer sounding, especially in the bass and in the upper treble, compared to Momentum 4 by Sennheiser and XM6 by Sony. There is simply more information everywhere, not only the bass and upper treble, and you can feel that the sound is also faster and tighter sounding by comparison. And I'd say that the gap between these and wired headphones connected to a high-end digital audio player is shrinking day by day, and these are doing just amazing in terms of resolution and detail retrieval. The more I was comparing these with the Momentum 4 and Sony XM6, the more I realized that if you deeply care for faithful audio reproduction without the use of a portable digital audio player, then the PX8 has to deliver audio quality in spades, and you can even compare them with a couple of hi-fi wired headphones, and there is a chance these will sound even clearer and tighter compared to those, which I believe already tells how impressive those drivers inside the PX8 S2 are. Their overall sound signature is not leaning towards a bass-heavy sound like is the case with the Sony XM6, and it's also not slowing down the pace, it's not smoothing out the rough edges like is the case with the Momentum 4. I would say that these are much more balanced sounding in the frequency response. So these are much more linear sounding in the frequency response without going up or down from linearity, but still sounding punchy and quite dynamic, more so compared to those two, which I find quite interesting. Overall, I'd say that the PX8 S2 are more dynamic sounding, are more engaging sounding. On several occasions, I found them even explosive sounding with some bass heavy tracks, while keeping that bass clear without becoming muffled like it's the case with the XM6, and without slowing down the pace like is the case with the Momentum 4. So these are faster, these are also tighter sounding, and these are also keeping the sound much tighter and clearer at higher volumes, something that I feel it's becoming boomy and not so hi-fi with these two. So these will be clearer sounding not only at lower volumes, but at close to max volume as well. So I believe overall we're getting a much more hi-fi package with the PX8 S2. While the active noise cancellation technology improved on these, and we now have 8 microphones instead of 6, and they can now cover a wider frequency response, I'm much more excited about the sound with the active noise cancellation enabled. Usually when you enable active noise cancellation with any other brand that you know, Bose, Sennheiser, Sony, whatever, you can feel that the mid-range, the vocal performance, everything that has to do with the human voice is going down, and all that becomes a little muffled, not so clear. And also the frequency extremes like the upper treble, again, not so clear, like you are sucking the life out of your music, and the sound is okay, it's, you cannot hear any noise whatsoever, but the sound is not so natural anymore. However, we have a much different approach on Bowers&Wilkins headphones, and I'm glad to say that the mid-range is no longer going down like is the case with the Sennheiser and Sony. I can still hear the vocal performance very clear, it's not muffled, and most importantly, the upper treble is not rolled off in any way. So with the active noise cancellation, the sound is as hi-fi as possible. It's not exactly as hi-fi with active noise cancellation disabled, but it's very, very close to that, and the life is not sucked from the music. They still sound quite natural with the active noise cancellation enabled, something that I cannot say about many other brands that are making wireless headphones. I was also surprised that resolution didn't get a massive hit with active noise cancellation like it was the case with the Sony, for example, and the mid-range region wasn't pushed into the shadow, moving the vocals to the background like is the case with the XM6. The ANC performance is only better if they cancel additional sounds all around you, but they do also sound better this time around with active noise cancellation enabled. The call quality was improved on the second generation. We have 8 microphones versus 6 on the third generation, and also the microphones were now repositioned to be much closer to your mouth, so the caller can hear you much clearer and louder this time around. And in this regard, I believe that the PX8 S2 are almost on the same level with the Sony XM6, which are still ruling supreme in this regard. comparing the PX8 S2 with the Momentum 4 and XM6 by Sony is much tougher than what I anticipated, but hey, let's do it step by step. We can all agree that in terms of design and build quality, you cannot beat this full metal and leather look and design of the PX8 compared to full plastic one on the Sony, and also with a few metallic pieces and with this textile material on top on the Momentum 4. So I would say that on the last place are definitely the Sony with this all plastic build. The Momentum 4 are sitting on my second place. They are built, I'd say, considered better compared to the Sonys, and these are easily my top choice in terms of materials and build quality. In terms of comfort, this is very subjective. We have very different head sizes, head shapes, so on and so forth, so this is very subjective. But for my head size, I say that again on the last place I'd put the Sony's XM6. They just put too much pressure on top of my head. The hot spot is very thin, so they are getting quite painful after about an hour or so. I do not have that problem with the Momentum 4, but they have much smaller ear cups, and my ears are getting sweaty after about an hour and a half. Something that I do not get with the Bowers&Wilkins. Their ear cups are much wider, and this part is much softer and cushier, so I can wear this easily for 3 hours straight, something that I cannot do with the other two. So when it comes to build quality and comfort levels, these are already just better in every way. Technology-wise, this is where the Momentum 4 are showing their age, because these are the oldest from this trio. So they support CBC, AAC, aptX and aptX Adaptive. The XM6 by Sony swaps the aptX codecs with LDAC, which are higher performance compared to aptX Adaptive and regular aptX. And they also have a longer battery life, and these are offering what I believe is the best codec of today, which is the aptX lossless. Better than the LDAC, better than the aptX Adaptive, and if you have a smartphone or tablet that supports aptX lossless, these will just send, you can say, a lossless audio transmission in between the sender and the receiver, and they will sound simply clearer compared to the rest. Not because the transmission is better, but because their drivers are also much more resolving and cleaner sounding compared to the rest. Sound-wise, with the noise cancelling turned off, the PX8 S2 will sound clearer, tighter, faster, airier, and a little bit bigger compared to the other two, and the difference is simply immediate. You don't need more than 30 seconds to realize that there is simply more information going forward with the Bowers&Wilkins. I'd say that the Sony sitting on the second place, very clear, but a little bit boomy sounding, a little bit bloated, especially in the bass. The Momentum 4, I'd say, are on the second place when it comes to how clear, how resolving they can get. The only part I don't like about the Sony is that the sound is slightly pressing the brakes. It's a little bit mellower, softer, not so impactful, not as fast, not as tight sounding, but definitely quite hi-fi. The Sonys, I'd say that the most mainstream sounding headphones. They try to appeal to a wider population, but definitely not to audiophiles. These are definitely the most hi-fi sounding of the bunch. There is simply just, as I was saying before, more resolution, tighter, airier, bigger, everything that you expect from a good pair of closed back headphones. From an audiophile perspective, I'd say that the Momentum 4 are sitting on the second place, offering a slightly clearer bass versus the Sony and a somewhat sweeter mid-range versus the other two. The only parts I didn't quite enjoy on the Momentum 4 are their somewhat rolled off upper treble region, removing tiny subtleties from there, and also their slight mellow and laid back attitude, sounding much smoother than the other two. For me, the Sony are sitting on the last place, but they could be on a second place for you, and let me explain to you what I mean by that. If you care for a very powerful bass delivery that gets a little bloated and a little over the place, then the Sony are doing exactly that. So they are definitely adding more bass compared to the rest, at the cost of not being as tight and as clean, and more like all over the place and a little bloated, I'd say, and a little boomy compared to the rest. Quantity-wise, they deliver a lot of bass, more than the rest, but quality-wise, it's not on the same level with the other two. What I like about the XM6 is that they have a somewhat crispy treble delivery, a little bit clearer compared to the Momentum that are slightly rolling off the upper treble. So if you like to have lots of trebles, lots of bass, then you can say that the Sonys are slightly better than the Momentum 4, and it's the other way around. If you like to have more mid-range and a more hi-fi sound, then I'd say that the Momentum 4 are better than the XM6. Overall, I'd say that the XM6 are sounding boomier compared to the rest. There is definitely more bass quantity-wise and slightly more energy in the upper treble as well, sounding a little bit more V-shaped than the rest, and I personally don't enjoy a V-shaped sound signature, but if you enjoy, they might sit on the second place compared to a more mid-range forward Momentum 4. So my final verdict: there isn't even a contest comparing these three. I believe that the PX8 has to adjust better in terms of comfort, build quality, technology used, and sound quality with active noise cancellation and without active noise cancellation, with lossless files and also with regular lossy content such as MP3 and OGG files. The noise cancellation technology improved as well, blocking additional sounds all while trying to leave the music unharmed. And if you care about all of these things, then I believe we have a new champion in terms of wireless noise cancelling headphones. But you'll need to pay a premium because they cost considerably more compared to the Momentum 4 and also the XM6 by Sony. Thanks as always for watching, everyone, and sorry for missing for the last 2 weeks. I've got COVID again for the 5th time, I believe, and I didn't feel that great. I'm still recovering. I lost some weight, but I'm getting better. And you should expect very soon some new headphone reviews, DAC combos, amplifiers, speakers. Everything will be coming very soon, so stay tuned for that.